Feels great to be sitting under an awning again, that's for sure. We'll tell you the story right after this. A year and a half ago, we were at this park, and the site that we are in is great, actually. The site itself, wonderful. We spent about 2 weeks in the site, and as we were getting ready to leave, we were pulling out of the site, and in my genius, I decided that we should pull out and turn left. Well, the site is kind of angled towards the right, which would have been a little bit easier to get out of. So I'm like, I got this. That was awesome thinking. So we got in the truck and I started pulling forward and realized that the turn to the left, I was going to drag the wheels into a little ditch that was on there on the side. And so I stopped, backed up, and I said, well, I'll swing wide right so that I can make this turn. Well, I had my eyes on the mirrors, and I had about a foot worth of space to, keep the RV from hitting the side, so I inched it over. And then we ran into this. The way that tree curves out is, well, caused some damage to our awning. And since then, this was about 18 months ago, since then, we have not pulled our awning. We haven't used it. And so to be sitting under the shade of this awning is absolutely a wonderful thing. Now, I didn't get video of the process. It took about 3.5 hours for me and a friend to pull the old tube out and install a new one. One little tips that I have here is sometimes RV parks have a storage space for larger trash, which this place has a they call it the boneyard, and there just happened to be a 20-foot long awning that the previous owner of this awning had a problem with the arms, but the tube was fine. So I asked the campground manager if I could take one of these awnings, or the tube, and install it on my RV. And he's like, yeah, it's trash. So one man's trash is another man's treasure. We'll take a look now at what the awning tube actually looked like, and I'll talk a little bit about what we did to replace it. From this angle, my 15-foot-ish, 15-foot-8, I think it was, looks fine. But from that angle, not so much. See if I can get an angle that shows how bent it is. No fisheye, but yeah, it's quite curved. So when we ran into the tree, it started pressing in down here, and it warped the whole back half of the awning tube. Funk. And this is the idler cover that is on the rear of the tube. So that got all busted up. And so luckily, this turned into a zero cost project because the old awning, the one that was on the old awning, the idler cover was still there, and the tube was in almost perfect shape. So this is one end of the awning that we salvaged. And as you can see, it is not quite round. And so since it was a 20-foot awning that was available, I was able to cut off this end and make sure that I had a nice round unit to work with. Now, this obviously is not the difference of 20 feet and my 15-foot awning. So I also cut off the other part So I cut off the excess, and I had marked on here 185.5 was the length of our awning. So kind of a weird size. These awning tubes are sold in full inch increments, all the way from like 4 feet all the way up to 20 plus feet. So I had a little bit of a discrepancy there. So we cut the tube to 185.5 and tried it out. Having the awning tube on there, we were able to retract everything, and it was in fact the right length. Now the process of getting the new awning on place is not easy, and we even had a lot of difficulty getting the old awning off of that tube. Reason being is these awnings are held on by friction and 2 screws. That's it. There's a bead, and we can show you what that bead looks like. There's a bead. Hopefully we can get in here. This beading creates the inability for the awning to slide out of these bits. So essentially, you line this up, start feeding it in, and then the awning material and this beading is thick enough that it won't come off. I guess if you pulled hard enough, the beading alone would come off, but the awning material fits inside of this, I don't know, U-shaped channel with a little extra. It's like a Times New Roman U, and it prevents the awning material from coming out. So getting everything lined up and straight and smooth with enough enough excess to be able to slide this awning in was the hardest part of the whole project. The old awning that we took off of the tube, well, that's just going to be discarded, because when this previous owner had a problem with it, they just cut it off. So it is useless as it is, so nobody's gonna get anything out of it. It's severely brittle too. Like, ours is a lot more pliable still, so this awning was aging anyways and probably due for a replacement. So all this is to say that replacing an awning tube is a DIY project. It does take a couple of pairs of hands. I had one friend help me, and even for a moment, my son was helping me as well, just so that we could get everything straight, smooth, and get that tube pushed back in to the awning canvas material, whatever you want to call it. But ultimately, it's a relatively simple job, if not a little bit tedious. But if you have a problem with your awning tube, you know, I was worried that we would have, because of the way that things were bent and creased, I was worried that we would have some holes or something that could have been, you know, a problem, and we might have needed to replace the canvas. But we were lucky enough to not have that, and so I think the awning tube that we would have needed to get was about $500 to $600, and then I would have had to pick it up somewhere. And I don't know, well, I have a big truck, I don't have that much, like, my bed's only 8 feet and that's 16 feet. I wouldn't want to have driven around with this to get it back from Camping World or wherever. So Carefree Awning, that's what ours is. I was really thankful that we were able to get the tube and everything for free. Obviously, not everyone's going to have that luxury, but do check to see if your local campground where you're staying has something that you might be able to use. So that's all for this episode of the Alcohol-Free RV. We'll put a link down below and maybe up in the corner to a list of all the other mods and repairs that we've done. And we'll see you very soon when we install what's in these boxes. That'll be coming up in a couple of weeks. Thanks for watching.